Welcome to the next lesson. So before we do any exploration into React components and how all the attributes and events works, I want to show you a quick example. It's a hello world exercise. So what we'll need to download the React.js library. You can do it in multiple ways. You can download the source code for this course. You can go to the facebook.github.io and download React.js library from there, or you can use npm, which is a node package manager. You can install React tools and then install React as a local library. So let's create a hello-world.html. We start with a doc type and HTML tag. Then we include the file that you just downloaded, either via npm or from the website directly. And we're using React-0.13.3. You can also use the minified version. There is really no differences when it comes to just using it. You can also hot link it. So Facebook provides CDN. The advantage of hot linking is that if users have it in their cache of the browser, they won't need to download this file again. The disadvantage is that your application would not run without the internet. HTML structure continues, and after the head we have a body, and the body of our file looks very simplistic. What we have here, we have a div with ID of example, and the React code has type of text/JavaScript, and it actually goes after that div. So this is very important, because if it goes before, we won't be able to find that div in our JavaScript code. Now let's create an h1 element. The way we create a React.js component for h1 element, we use React. Now it's a global class, global object that is accessible, and it has a method called createElement, camel case. And the first argument is h1, it's just a string of the tag that we want to create. Second argument is some parameters. Right now, let's just keep it simple and put a null there. And the second is the content. So actually, you can have more arguments. You will see that example later, but right now, we just have 3 arguments, and the last is the inner HTML of that h1. And we put that newly created element. Of course, you can create a new variable and use that, but I just use it inline, and we call another React.js method called render. In older version, you might see on the internet there are a lot of examples with old version of React. It's called render component. Now it's render, and the first parameter is that element that we want to render, and the second is a DOM element, normal HTML DOM element, and we get that by ID. You can get it by using any other selector, get tags by name, by some other selectors. And finally, we're running the page. So if you navigate to that page, you can use a local web server, or you can just navigate directly to that page without any web servers. You should see hello world. And if you inspect that element, what you would see that h1 tag, but you would also see this weird looking attribute that React added. It's called data-react ID. So what this allows, it's an internal ID for React to identify that element and later use that to update it when it's necessary. So there are ways to provide attributes to your h1, or in this case it's a div. And also you can specify as many parameters at the end as you want. So I've added world as a 4th parameter, and React will just concatenate those and it will produce hello space world. So there is an exception for and class attributes. We need to change the names for them in order for us to use them with React components. The reason for this, because for and class are JavaScript reserved names, so we cannot use them as is. So for class we need to use class name, camel case, and for we need to use for HTML, also camel case. So in this example I'm applying attribute class, but I need to use class name for React element.